Hi, it's Leanne. Hope you're doing well. Video number 2 in the series of videos we're doing, predicated around my big milestone birthday, 50. And this particular story is about the importance of adapting and changing, or if you like, staying in the game, which could be applied to any area of life, but particularly to business. If you run your own company, you'll know that the importance of being adaptable and responding to change and thinking on your feet and not being afraid to let something go or do something else or stay in the game can be really important. And this really hit home for me many years ago now. I've run a limited company for 11 years, run a business for 13 years, either as a sole trader or a limited company. And some years ago, as I say, we'd hit upon a really gnarly period of cash flow difficulty and I couldn't see a way out of it, but I was determined to stay in the game. So I moved aside from doing what I was doing, said to a friend of mine who ran a building company, look, I'm going to need to earn some cash for the next 3 months while I rebuild the business. Have you got anything for me? And he said, well, actually we could do with a labourer on site. Do you reckon you're up to it? Now, it's never been an aspiration of mine to work in the construction industry, but when you want to stay in the game, you need to be adaptable, you need to embrace change. So I said yes and spent the next 12 weeks working on a building site, quite literally filling up or packing a skip. There's an art to packing a skip, by the way. It's not just chucking things in. Going up the roof, handing roof tiles to roofers, doing boarding, plasterboarding. I even did a little bit of wiring under supervision. I learned enough to be dangerous, which is that I felt I could try my hand at most stuff on a building site, but probably shouldn't have done and didn't, certainly not unsupervised, but I made myself as handy as I could be. In that time, we got the opportunity to work with a client that ended up being a client for quite a long time. And that enabled me to hand back the reinforced gloves and the steel-toed capped shoes and go back into the office and pick up where I'd left off. And since then, business is up and down, but we've thrived really since then. I'm sure there'll come a time in some aspect of life that I'm going to need to literally pivot and do something else. But I took a lot from that. Firstly, that the important thing is to stay in the game, the business game. And if that means stepping out for a bit and doing something else, so be it. Who knows, I may have to do that again, I hope not. And it also taught me that being adaptable is extremely important for resilience, something I talk about a lot. Now, there's nothing new in all of that, but can you think of a time when you've needed to be adaptable? Because when future trouble comes along, you can think back to that time and you'll know what you did to resolve it, and you'll know, more importantly, that you were able to resolve it. But also just keep in mind that adaptability and staying in the game is the most important thing most of the time. So what can you do to make that happen? Or put one final way, when you are faced with difficulty and you need to call upon that resilience and be adaptable, what is the most important thing to you? And then preserving that or taking that forward will give you the power to make the changes you need to make, because you've got this big overarching thing, which for me was to stay in the game. So I hope you've enjoyed that story. We'll be back for the next 2 weeks with other stories, little snippets of things I've learned along the way. But for now, all the very best. See you next week.